Welcome, everybody. This is season 5, episode 217. We are in the pre-show right now, and we got some really good conversation going. So instead of introducing everybody, which I think that you guys already know us, let's go ahead and continue this this conversation. So, Scuba Steve, our guest is David, and he's a meteorologist, and we were talking about the gaggle and how to turn on safe sky. So Scuba, go ahead and let us
Yeah,
know how to turn that on real
some
quick.
people don't realize that you can turn on Safe Sky inside Gaggle. And what Safe Sky does basically is let you know of aircraft that's in the area. So if you bring up your Gaggle app and you click on you click on the little settings app in the top right, you're going to go down to where it says recorder settings, has a little airplane right there. And from there, you're going to scroll down and you're going to see integrations. It says Safe Sky right there. Go into that and enable it. And then you can turn on your call sign. You can turn on private privacy mode if you want to not show your locations. But when you have that on, that'll show you, as long as they got ADSB out, it'll show you any aircraft coming towards you and their altitude and what type of aircraft it is, which I think is pretty cool. So make sure you have that turned on. It could save you or potentially a lot of lives.
Did you say that there's something else too that's coming out recently? Because
Yes, because of Anthony Vella's incident, a lot of people were saying that he had trouble contacting 911 and giving his location. So the main guy from Gaggle says he's going to try to integrate that into Gaggle so that if you go down, it will automatically text your emergency contact and let them know, hey, he went down. This is his location. Especially if you land in a location that you didn't take off from. I guess depending on how he sets it up, whether it be a setting that you turn on and off, like, hey, I'm specifically going to another location, or hey, if I land somewhere way away from where I took off, then I crashed, it can automatically text. I think he'll set it up that way so you can pick one or the other. But I think it's great because, yeah, he had a hard time explaining where he went down at to get, help to him. So I think that's going to be awesome. They're adding stuff to Gaggle like all the time from everybody's suggestions, which is awesome that they do that.
absolutely, I Gaggle is the premier app to go to for sure.
Yeah.
Many times it saved me also. Helicopter, like I was just saying, helicopter was coming at 700 feet. I was flying at 700 feet. It was coming from behind me. Gaggle said, hey, you got a helicopter coming from your six at 700 feet. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I swirled down, looked up, there goes a helicopter right where I was. So Gaggle has saved me, and it sounds like it saved many people that has been using it. So you guys at Gaggle, keep it up. Love it. Welcome, everybody. This is Sean Symons, PPG Grandpa. We are on episode 217. We got Dave Wert over here. He's a meteorologist and a paramotor pilot. So, for all you guys out there that have been wondering about how do I check winds aloft? Oh, actually, do you even know about checking winds aloft? How about your micrometeorology? Did you learn all that stuff from school? If you do, or if you did, what apps are you using? What apps could you use? How do we make this work? David, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into paramotoring.
Well, I was with the Weather Service, National Weather Service, meteorologist in charge with them for 36 years. And in 2020, I decided to retire. It was a good time to retire. And the first thing on my bucket list was to do what I've always wanted to do, which was to be a pilot. 6'3", terrible eyesight, never could be a commercial pilot, but you look at YouTube and it's like, oh my gosh, paramotoring, that looks way cool. So I ended up, first thing, I retired in January 2020, February 2020, went down to Aviator PPG, trained down there for 2 years, got my PP1 by PP2, then loved Florida so much, hating the winter, moved down there for 2 years, then ending up getting my uh, flight instructor certification so I could then do tandem flights and share the experience with anyone that wanted to go up with me. So,
You say you trained for 2 years?
oh no, no, no,
You
no,
just said
no.
that I trained
Yeah,
for 2 years. I'm like, what?
well, that would be probably with my slow intellect, I'd probably need that amount of time. But no, I had 2 weeks I trained at
Oh, okay,
Aviator.
okay, there
Sorry,
we go.
good. I'm glad. Thank you, because I'd probably look at this recording later and go, "What did you just say?" So thank you for that
I thought you
correction.
meant like you trained, and then for over the 2 years you trained, you got your PPG 1, PPG 2,
Yeah, yeah,
your instructors. That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
SIV, he
thank
did
you.
it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being so gracious with that. No, 2 weeks down there at Aviator, and I told my wife at the time, said, "You want to move down here?" And she goes, "Yeah." I mean, it's 14 degrees in where I'm in the mountains of Virginia, and it was 81 down there in February. It's like, oh, this is where we want to be. So we were down there for 2 years, and during that time, I was able to teach weather at Aviator PPG and continue to train to get then what ultimately ended up becoming the tandem certification. So just loving it. It's wonderful. I can share it with my family. I can share it with other people. I've got an LLC so that I can do it in that way too. We're back in Virginia now. Too hot, too much of the time. It was just too much. Kids keep having grandkids, so the call of the grandkids pulled us back to Virginia. But uh, just it's great to be here. It's a real honor. And
You must be on the west side of Virginia because I'm in Virginia
yes,
also. Yeah, because
yeah,
once you said mountains, I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, there's no
Well, the
mountains over here.
Rockies. Now we're
I'm over
down.
by Hampton, Virginia
Yeah,
Beach area.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're south Virginia Tech country, Blacksburg, south of Roanoke,
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Southwest Virginia. But I'm still a weather geek, and so being a paramotor pilot, obviously I have to live by my own forecast. And knowing just how important weather is to everyone, I've kind of put some resources together so you can be your own meteorologist because it's the micrometeorology that will make a great day and a great flight or really ruin your day real fast.
That is for sure. Now, you sent us a bunch of links, and I put those already in the show notes down below. So if you guys are on a computer or your phone watching this, you should be able to go down to your description, and there's a bunch of links. And we're going to go through all this stuff tonight and let you know what they are, what they're about, and how to use them. So thank you once again. I appreciate you being on the show tonight. Learning about micrometeorology is extremely important, and I hope that everyone out there is really good at this. And if not, this is the show definitely to watch. It is recorded, and you'll be able to watch this anytime. Plus, we also strip out the audio and put the audio out there in all of our podcasting apps. So your favorite podcasting app will have this later on also. Real quick, hello to Jim from Canada, the only guy I know that has maple syrup smelling money. Kevin Houston, our president of Run to Sky
Hey,
nonprofit. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Scuba Steve, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, my friend. Kyle Neel, he's our director of operations over at Run to the Sky nonprofit. Paramount USA, pom poms, yeah, there we go, pom poms. She is the PR girl here on the podcast and also at Run to the Sky nonprofit. Will Fly from Will Fly PPG. He is also our treasurer of the nonprofit Run into the Sky. David, tell some interesting things about the weather that maybe we don't know about.
Yeah. Easiest thing I think would be, can I share my screen?
Absolutely, buddy.
Okay, and then I'll kind of go through these resources. We can talk about it and stop me, please, if for whatever reason it's not coming up properly. So do that. And
We see your Facebook.
okay, good. Let me move that out of the way. I'm going to get down to that. Okay. So that is the resource. This is a Word document that has all the hyperlinks to what I think would be really important for everyone to be able to have access and understand. And a lot of this all of this is from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. And all of these colleges, some of the college links, acquire their data from NOAA. And then they put it in a format that is pretty intuitive, a lot more intuitive than admittedly some of the National Weather Service sites are. I heard, I think Sean say earlier, weather.com. That's actually AccuWeather. If you ever want to look at the government site, that is weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service. And that's really where all the basis for all of the numerical models and all of the satellites and everything that you're going to see here, that originates with NOAA and the National Weather Service. It's just these colleges then pick it up and they put it into a format that's a little bit more intuitive for the layman. So first thing I want to call attention to is the College of DuPage Meteorology site. And we'll just pull that up here. And what you'll see there is just a whole bunch of stuff. And basically what you want to do is click on weather data. And from there, you'll see analysis data, satellite and radar, numerical models, text forecasts, experimental data. That's going to be a little overwhelming. What you really want to do, I think, will be to focus on the satellite and the radar. And here, what it will do, depending on the time of day, is it will pull up a satellite of the entire United States. And if you hit that button, you can see how things are looping. Obviously, these clouds are all very, very high level clouds. This lighter color, what this is an infrared picture. So the closer to the ground it is, the darker the color is going to be. And obviously, if there's no clouds, then it's very, very dark. If there are lower clouds, because lower clouds aren't as cold as the really high clouds, then it's going to be in the shade of gray. And then the ones that are in the greens and sometimes yellows or even the bright reds, these are the bigger, higher clouds associated with much, much bigger storms. And if you say, okay, well, that's great. That's an entire United States, but I live in, and I live here in the southwest part of Virginia. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill down, and these are the scales. So you can go to maybe a sub-regional, and then you can blow that up, and then you can get a really good idea of your area and what's going on. Matter of fact, out here over the ocean, you can see these are all temperatures. So if you ever wonder, gee, why the Gulf Stream is really warm, look at this dark, warm water. That's all 68, 70-degree water coming up from the southeast off the southeast United States. This is all the colder water. So these are temperatures, say, in the 40s. So you can actually see just the water temperatures by looking at an infrared, not to mention the clouds. So it's pretty cool stuff.
That is pretty cool. I've never really looked over at the ocean, and I always thought, well, there's nothing going on over there. It just looks like, maybe clouds that are just hanging out, but I'd never realized that that's infrared and that's just the different color or the different temperatures of the water. That's neat.
Yeah, yeah. So you can really do a lot with a satellite imagery, at least with the infrared imagery, just looking at temperatures. It's like, gee, if I wanted to go fishing out here, this is a really good place because it's nice and warm. That's where all the nice fish are, where it's darn cold right here, closer to the coast. But obviously from paramotoring, it's not going to be particularly useful to you.
If an airline pilot ever tells me what the water temperature is, I'm going to be worried.
We're going down. Get ready for it.
The water temperature today? No, I don't need to know that.
Yeah. So we're getting into the time of day, and let me go back to the continental scale. Whoa, that's a little bit more than I want. Let's go to the regional scale. So we're getting into the time of day where this will default back to the infrared temperatures. But earlier in the day, we're during a time where better look at the visible. So this is from a geosynchronous orbiting satellite that's 22,300 miles above the equator. And so basically what it's doing is as the Earth rotates, it is revolving around the Earth at the same rotational speed. So it's always over the same location. That's why this map isn't changing, because the satellite isn't changing. It's locked over the United States from its vantage point. And so that's why you see a static screen, and everything that's moving is, of course, what's moving, the clouds in this case. But if it was during the day, let me go back and see if we can go visible red. Yeah, that's even better. All of these are your what we call ABI bands, and they are just different representations of what that satellite can see. So at night, if you were up at 22,300 miles above the Earth and you're looking down at night, you would see black because there's nothing visible to see. That's why you go to infrared, because you still want to know where those clouds are. But during the day, obviously your eyes are your best pictures. So in this case, let's go to we'll go to visible red again. And then let's zoom up on a particular area. And so looking in the Midwest now, remember you were hearing about all these big tornadoes in eastern Nebraska and then Oklahoma. That weather system now is pushing into the middle part of the nation. And
Real quick, I don't mean to
Mhm.
interrupt, but down
Yeah,
there in Arkansas, right down there
yep,
by like
yep,
Texarkana,
yep,
why is it just like it looks like it's just coming out of nowhere, just blowing up
yes.
out of how does why is that? I see that a
Excellent.
lot.
Let's zoom up again. We can go to, and I know I'm hitting everyone with 1,000 pieces of data. It's going to be really tough to assimilate all this, but I would encourage everyone afterwards, go ahead, play the digital recording, and then learn for yourself, because you'll get really good at this. But so you asked that question. Let's go to a localized sector. Come on. And we're going to go to that area, blow it up so we can see what is going on. So these are gigantic thunderstorms.
Yes.
And matter of fact, I'm going to pause it. You can see this is the top of the thunderstorm. There's actually a shadow. This thing is shooting up at about 60,000 feet. You got another area here. So in the low levels of the atmosphere, the wind is blowing this way. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, the wind is blowing this way. So you can see just the ventilation at different levels of the atmosphere of how those winds are with respect to the cloud movement. Uh, right down here near the base, they're just, you can see these little feeders. They're actually coming in from the southeast, moving into the storm, just feeding it all that warm, moist air. And this collision between winds is producing this uplift that is just producing these sustainable storms. So really big here,
Okay.
really big here. And one thing I would really caution, and this is going to be a great illustration because we actually have this going on right now. Here, you're a paramotor pilot. Let's just say you're in southeastern Oklahoma, and let's just say you're right here, and you see this monster storm to your southeast, and you say, no problem. Yeah, it's a biggie, but it's moving away from me. I don't have anything to worry about. Look at this thing that's coming out from this. This is called an outflow boundary. So when this cascade of rain and hail falls, it hits the ground and it spreads out in all directions. And this is actually spreading westward and is deep enough to create a new line of clouds.
Wow.
If this was if this was super dry air, you would never see these clouds form, but that outflow boundary is probably coming at you at about 40 miles an hour. So let's just say there were no clouds here. Let's just say you're looking at that storm and moved through 2 hours ago, no problem, is moving away from me. You set up because it's just a nice, pleasant evening, and all of a sudden it's calm winds, and then you get hammered with a southeast wind from 40 miles an hour. That's because of that outflow boundary.
That's
So
that
that's
gust front that everybody talks about. That
exactly.
if you see these
Yes,
rain clouds like this, to stay away, even if they're going away, this is the best representation I've ever seen of why to stay away from thunderstorms.
excellent. And
This is amazing.
Yeah,
here's
what
another one.
about
Here's another one right
oh, go
here.
ahead.
Look at these storms. Look at this thing come flying out, way out ahead of this storm. This is now removed in some instances by probably 70 miles. Here's actually two outflows. There's this one, and then the outflow that comes out and around from this. So that's why I would stress satellite is your first look, because it gives you not only, okay, where are the clouds, where are they moving, but is there something in the signature that you can look at and go, oh my gosh, it's beautiful where I'm at. But if I get up, I'm going to get hit with something that's going to make my day real bad really fast. So yeah,
Wow.
please keep asking questions.
It's what I was wondering about is I don't know if you've ever seen the video of the lady that went up and got caught in that cloud suck.
Yes.
What exactly? I mean, do just big thunderstorms like that cause it, or could it just be any kind of high cirrus clouds, or does it need to be a thunderstorm like that? And you're
Yeah.
close to it and it just pulls you into it as it rises.
Yes, the latter. The higher clouds, you're not likely to be up at that altitude anyway. The lower clouds is where the source of the input into the storm comes from. And what they were doing is, and it was very similar to this, except I think it was in Switzerland. They were flying from like down here, flying north, and they thought they could get between the thunderstorms and get north of them to do the competition or complete the competition and win. What happened was there was a outflow boundary, which you see here. And as that outflow boundary comes south, it's colliding with these winds coming in from the northeast. And actually, you're beginning to see the next area of genesis right here of the next storm. In another 30, 40 minutes, this area is going to look just like this. And so what they did is they're flying in. There was this collision of outflows. It produced this updraft, tremendous updraft, sucked her up as this thing developed. And there's no getting, you don't put a Cessna, you don't put a Piper, you don't even put a jet through this area. And certainly a paramotor is just not going to be able to win that arm wrestling battle. And she got sucked up to 39,000 feet. Not a good place to be. Now these are up at about 60,000 feet. So they were relatively weak thunderstorms, and she almost died. Can you imagine if you got sucked up to 60,000 feet? You're above
Be an ice
even.
cube.
Yeah. Well, and at that altitude, there is about 10% air.
Right.
90% of the atmosphere is below you. Human body cannot really sustain lower than about 50% air. So if she went up that high, she would have been dead long before she ever got to the top of the cloud. So
Wow.
this is nothing to fool around with, and being able to, I'm really glad that we've got what's going on now so that you can kind of get an illustration of what to look for first. Satellite is one really important thing to look for, especially in the evening if you're going to try to get an evening flight in, because that's usually at the end of the day when the atmosphere has been bubbling and percolating, just like you put a water on a hot stove, it just percolates. And that's when you're going to usually get the most updrafts, shear, and the potential for thunderstorm activity. Now, the way a thunderstorm forms is you have the moisture, instability, and lift. But if you don't have any of those ingredients, you're not going to thunderstorm. You may not even have a cloud. That doesn't mean the same volatility of the atmosphere is present. You just don't have anything to see to know that it's volatile. So just because it's clear skies doesn't necessarily mean it's not volatile. It can be extremely volatile, especially later in the afternoon and the evening, depending on where you're at. And throw topography on top of that, it even gets worse.
Yeah, I'm in Arkansas right now in Conway, just about 30 minutes north of Little Rock, and you can see in that satellite view, we're getting pummeled.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing too would be to watch for, these are all lower clouds because they're not all that gnarly, bubbly stuff, and visually you would see it. But let's just say, I'll go into Wisconsin here. See that area right here? It's starting to get dark, so that's why it's getting black because you're losing the light. You're not able to see the clouds anymore, which is why, again, infrared is good at night. But as long as we have some sun illuminating the clouds, we can still see it. So let's just say you're setting up in your favorite LZ right here. in Wisconsin. And yeah, you see clouds to your east, your south, your west, and your north, but it's nice and clear. But look what's coming at you. And it's not stationary, it's moving. So if you get up, now, especially if these clouds are low, in this case, I bet you they're probably 3,000, 4,000 feet, maybe even 6,000. They're not going to be particularly low. But let's just say it's one of those mornings where it's very, very low clouds, 500, 600, 700 feet, maybe 300 feet. You get up, and all of a sudden, the clouds come over you. Now there's no way to get down legally through those clouds. That's where you're just going to have to hope and pray and punch back down through and hope that you don't hit a radio tower on the way down. So again, knowing where your holes are and are they going to get filled with time, even if there's no thunderstorms or anything else around, that's another really good thing to be looking for.
Wow. What about the you know, because I lived in Arizona like 40 years, but like what causes the dust storms and the monsoons? Like, I think of the guys that fly and fly in the desert in the summer, those pop up
Yes.
out of nowhere.
Yes. So I'll kind of focus on that part of the area. In the summer, what will happen is usually you'll get a very large ridge that will set up in this area due to the heat. The elevation and the high angle of attack of the sun really heats this area up. And so you get a persistent high pressure system, and high pressure winds around a high pressure system are clockwise. So, and this is the beginning of the monsoon cycle. So what will happen is the winds swirl around this high pressure system and coming, matter of fact, I'm going to go maybe a little, I don't want to do it that far out. We'll do that. So high pressure is here circulating. And on the southwest side of the high, the winds are coming in on the backside and pulling all the Pacific moisture up into the southwest United States. So you have all this moisture coming up over very, very hot terrain, hundreds usually, temperatures well into the 90s, hundreds. And that moisture is lifted up over the ridges. It then creates that sufficient uplift to be able to generate, in some instances, if there's enough moisture, thunderstorms. But it's a very, very dry environment. So all this rain starts falling and it evaporates. It's called virga. You'll see out of the cloud base all this wisp of it looks like fuzz, but it's actually rain. But because the atmosphere is so dry, it evaporates before it hits the ground. Sometimes it doesn't. But regardless, all of that downward momentum slams into the ground at maybe 40, 50, 60, 80 miles an hour and then produces this massive outflow. And because it's usually very dry and dusty, then you get these big dust storms. That's basically what these winds will do.
One of the things that we also teach people too, if you see virga, don't fly. So
that's right.
I'm glad that you started to talk about the virga and the details about it. So if you see virga, which looks like the clouds are going to rain or there is rain, but it never touches the ground, tell us again what happens and why we should not fly a paramotor.
Yeah. So if you wet your hand, you put it out in the wind, it's going to feel cold. And what's happening is it's evaporating that moisture and it makes it cold. And so when precipitation falls through a drier layer, same principle is happening. It's getting much, much colder than its surrounding environment. Therefore, it's becoming much denser and it accelerates downward like this big, think about taking a bucket of water and just pouring it. But instead of the water reaching the ground, it actually dries and it's just this big cold blast of air. It hits the ground and spreads out in all directions. That's actually what's happening kind of with the gust front too, with a thunderstorm. So you're going to get this tremendous downrush of air, and then you're going to get a big wind shear of speed and directional change near the ground layer. So if you're a paramotor pilot, you fly under this wispy virga, and anyone can go to YouTube or just Google and go VIRGA, and you'll be able to see pictures of it so you know what we're talking about and what to look for. That downward push will push you right to the ground. Matter of fact, I think in 1983 or 6, there was a massive crash of in Dallas Fort Worth, where a plane was trying to land and they got caught in this downburst and then was pushed right to the ground, and many, many people died as a result.
In the plane.
And that was a
What about-
commercial aircraft, so you can imagine what happens with a paramotor.
What about like, so what causes the microburst?
It's going to be a localized area of lift, usually generated topographically by this monsoonal flow of moisture that is then lifted over a mountain, and it reaches kind of, I'll call it a critical mass, but basically it becomes self-sustaining. So then it starts eating all of the moisture that's nearby, and it becomes a self-contained unit that eventually all of this moisture is held aloft until it can't hold it anymore. And then it dumps it, and then you get this big drop of precipitation. These are all, this would be a cirrus fall streak. So actually, because of the altitude of those clouds, that's actually snow falling. Same principle though. There's a lot of downward moving air in that region and can reach all the way down to the ground. So you just don't want to be flying anywhere close to these things.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's
That
awesome.
is amazing.
It is 7:30, guys, and we're going to be giving away something tonight on the spinny wheel of winning things. If you haven't done so already, say hello to Will Fly in the super chat. Do we have any questions in the super chat, or anybody on the panel have any questions for Dave? All right, we will continue.
None in the super chat.
Anybody anybody on the panel then? Any questions?
Just that I've always been real curious, about those microbursts, because I remember one year it came out of nowhere, and it took a carport right next door, just flipped it over onto the next mobile home, whatever, and never touched mine.
Oh, I was muted, dummy. Okay.
It's like, and I've always just been really, fascinated about those. They're scary, but they, like I said, they would come out of nowhere. And I always wondered, how in the heck does that happen? Just that quick, and then it's done. There's no wind, nothing. It just,
Yeah.
So
I wanted
go ahead, please.
I wanted Dave to see this storm because I posted this on Kyle Glee's page. I don't know who posted this video. It's from a while back, but I was looking at this thing going, oh my God, I wouldn't even think about flying, number one, but it looks really weird, and I've never seen anything like it. So maybe this will show okay. Maybe. No, too much light.
What are you trying to show? We can try to do it on the computer.
Yeah, let me try and get it where y'all can see it, because that's no good.
Just text it in the chat here, and we'll
if I can grab the video some kind of way.
Share it through your phone to our messenger chat, and we'll pull it up through the messenger if you want.
have you
Share it
ever
through my phone. Let me see.
have you ever flown through like heat lightning? And what causes that, Dave? The heat
What is
lightning,
heat? Yeah, what is
to
heat lightning?
the electrical lightning.
Yeah, there's cloud to cloud, cloud to air, cloud to ground, and in cloud lightning. There's also something called sprites, which actually go from the top of the cloud all the way up through the stratosphere, even above that.
I've seen some of those pictures that were caught catching some sprites before. That's pretty cool.
They're beautiful. Up till maybe the 1980s, people, even the scientific community, dismissed them until there was enough photographic evidence to justify that indeed they were valid, and then the scientific principles followed to explain them. But there are many, many different types of lightning, and it's all based on polarization of the atmosphere and discharge from positive and negative sources of energy. And if that difference is great enough, you're going to get a discharge. Be no different than when you may be scuffing your feet on a dry day on your carpet and you touch your refrigerator and you get zapped. Same thing's happening. There's a removal of ions and they're transferred when you ground yourself. And the atmosphere is actually a really good insulator. But after a while, it can become so incredibly charged that electrical discharge can even bridge a good insulator, which is air, and will then result in a lightning strike. That's why you'll usually see a lot more lightning within the cloud than cloud to ground initially, because it's easier just to go from cloud to cloud. You're not bridging a lot, and you're also moving through a lot of moisture. So water is a really good conductor. So if you have all these water droplets, it can carry back and forth through the cloud much more easily. Eventually, then it gets strong enough where then you'll begin to get the ground discharges. And that's why you've heard the tallest object most often will be the one that's the most frequently hit. It's because it's closest to the point of where that discharge wants to be released from the cloud to the ground, or vice versa. So you don't want to be standing out with your golf club on the middle of a golf course within a thunderstorm approaching, because you're going to be the target that's most likely going to be the first bridge to the ground that then receives that discharge. And of course, being a paramotor, you don't want to be up there anyway.
I heard that if you are out and you feel your hair being stuck on
Yes.
the end, that could be like the very
Yes.
beginning of a
Yes.
lightning strike. Why does everybody's hair get, why does that happen then?
Well, if you rub a balloon on your head and then put the balloon near your hair is going to start standing up, because what you've done is you removed a lot of the electrons from the balloon, and now you're much more positive, or actually could have been with respect to the hair too, but there is a difference of the electrical potential between the balloon and your hair. And so what will happen is it will then try to bridge that gap, and the hair will then try to stand up. And so that would be true. Matter of fact, when we would do a lot of Skywarn training, safety training for people, we would show actually a picture, an infamous picture of some guys that were, their last picture before they died was how funny it was that their hair was standing up. And the next hikers that came up the mountain saw two dead people, but a camera. And so they looked at the camera picture and their hair was standing up, and it was just before they got hit by lightning.
Now, I was on a cruise ship and everybody on the cruise ship, their hair was all standing up when we're out on deck, but there wasn't any lightning. What would have caused something like that?
I'm not sure, because I would have had to be present to kind of ascertain what was the source of the polarization of the local environment that was occurring. I don't know. It could have been the engines. It could have been it could have been any number of things, really.
Yeah, there were clouds up, but there wasn't any lightning strikes, but there was a lot of clouds.
Yeah, it's possible that there was a lot of vertical development above those clouds that you just couldn't see. And so you were already beginning to see the beginning of the atmosphere trying to equalize the difference of the electrical potential that was existing to try to bridge that gap. But my feeling is, if you're ever outside and you begin to feel tingly, like there's a million ants running on you, or if you have hair and you can actually see it, you want to either get down, you want to get down quickly, and you want to get inside quickly. You're never going to be able to outrun lightning, but lowering your height with respect to the potential of a discharge is always better. So crouching down and kind of getting to a place of safety would be the best thing, and just pray you don't get hit in the process. What you just saw was a shelf cloud. That cloud that was
show it again real
advancing.
quick while he's talking. Show it real quick again while you're
Okay. I mean,
That's a cool picture. That's a really cool
picture. It looks crazy. So I was like, I just wanted him to see that, and then, maybe enlighten us on this. Because that doesn't look like something you want to be flying in, that's for sure.
No, your day is going to be very bad, very fast with something
There we
like
go.
that.
Yeah, I mean, you can see all those
Yep.
clouds. It's basically just, and it looks like it's creeping up on them. It's just like coming in.
I don't know if I can try using a whiteboard here and sharing that, because I can show you exactly what's happening if it'll work. You want to try it or not worry about
You
it?
can try. I'll pause it on like a part that's.
What are you trying to do?
There we go.
A whiteboard? Can I screen
There
save
is. I can hit annotate. I wonder if, I mean, I could circle on stuff, but I don't know if it'll let you do
Ooh.
it since I'm sharing.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, so, and you can't see my cursor, correct?
No, I cannot.
Okay, that's fine. So what is happening is maybe as you're looking behind those houses about 10 miles, there is a big thunderstorm. And
Okay.
all of this rain is cascading down and creating this big push of cold air. And so where you see it coming down like a wave, the lower part is accelerating a little faster than the upper part. And so these clouds are condensing on the leading edge of that very deep, cold boundary of air. And so you're visually able to see this gust front coming at you because you can see the cloud tags that are showing it. So this is a great illustration of where you have enough moisture where the gust front is visible, and that's it, that wave of cloud that's coming at you.
Yeah,
But
it looks like a waterfall almost. It's just crazy.
yes, but the thing would be if you're in a dry environment, and this is where I think Lindy was asking about, well, what about in the desert where you're not getting any rain, but you're getting this in the form of dust? If there's dust, okay, then you visibly can see it. But what about in an environment where it's so dry and maybe it's a forested area where you're not going to be able to see anything? You
Mhm.
don't, you can't see the gust front coming because there's no cloud tags or dust to show it. Those are the things that are the most dangerous. When we were looking at that satellite picture of southeastern Oklahoma, that gust front was coming, but there was no way to see it. And that's why looking at satellite ahead of time is really helpful. And of course, if you're looking outside and you're seeing something like this, don't do it. You're just asking for a suicidal light.
This was I filmed this 12 years ago when I was on top of Pinnacle Mountain over here in Arkansas, and this big
Yep.
wall of whatever was coming towards us. The wind was not blowing at all. I mean, it was just nice
Not
and
yet.
just nice and easy. I mean, it was just like, okay, and it just kept on coming closer and closer. You can tell from 12 years ago, our videos were not as good as they
Yeah.
are now. As it got closer and closer, though, once again, it was just like there's nothing. There's just absolutely no breeze whatsoever. And then as it got closer and it came over us, man, the wind whipped up
Right.
like it was a tornado.
Yep. So in a situation like that, you saw the arc cloud or the shelf cloud that was visual. That's where the leading edge of the cold air is slamming into a part of the atmosphere that is cold enough to condense the cloud. And that's where you saw this beautiful arc of the cloud. Down a little lower, it was a little too dry for that to be seen. So you never saw that cloud come right to the ground, but yet you felt the cold as that blast came through. So just because you're looking at the cloud goes, oh, wow, look at that arc cloud or that shelf cloud coming at me, but it's not touching the ground. Don't think it isn't, because it is. It's just not moist enough for that cloud to actually go all the way to the ground. And
Oh,
then,
that's interesting. Yeah.
and so you saw it coming. You just didn't see it on the ground coming, but it was still coming. And it hit you right about the time that that it did above you.
So what if you were like above that when you were flying your paramotor and you looked down, you saw this big shelf cloud going right by. Do we stay up really high and try? What do we do? I mean, are we just screwed or what?
You're pretty screwed. I mean, one,
Oh,
you're going to have plenty of time to have seen it, to not be in a situation like that. But the upper part of that cloud is probably about 20,000 feet. You're not flying that high. So the only alternative is if you see it and you cannot get down is to go 180 degrees and try to outrun it and get down on the ground before it overtakes you. Because once it overtakes you, you're going to have a really bad day. I mean, you may get down to the ground, but you're probably going to destroy all of your equipment and probably yourself in the process.
that does not sound fun at all. Will Fly, is there any other questions in the super chat before we spin our spinning wheel? And don't forget, you're on mute.
Yes, there is one.
Okay.
It's the Daniel Sagvold. He says, are there any apps or websites that are better for weather predictions? And that's kind of the links you posted would.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get it. Hopefully we'll have the time to do it because these links not only just show you one model, but it shows you a plethora of models and also their different scales. Some are more detailed, some are more coarse. The coarser ones can go out 10 days, 15 days. The very high detailed ones will only go out maybe 15 to 20 hours. And the reason for that is they're so detailed that the slightest little error with time explodes into something that is filled with errors. So the really high definition models are very short, but I'll show you some sites where you can see all of that, and I'll tell you which ones are the most reliable and when.
Very, very interesting because I know that when we look for wind, like for a week out, it never shows anything that's remotely true. We look for the next weekend. It says it's going to be thunderstorms and rain. By the time we get there, it's sunny and the perfect time to fly. When is the best time? I kind of feel like it's like the next day, right? I mean, I can kind of get an idea, but until that night,
Yeah.
like Monday night, I have no clue what it really is going to be like tomorrow. Is that what you think too, as far as the models out there?
I look at the preponderance of evidence and I have a rule of 40. And so when we get into that, I'll show you because one model may say, oh, it's going to be beautiful 1 day, 2 day, 3 days out. But five of them say, no, it won't. Where if you have the preponderance of evidence where the majority of the models are all saying the same thing, you have a pretty high degree of confidence that that's going to validate, even if it's multiple days into the future. And so we can look at that too, as far as some of these links. Matter of fact, all of that is in those links. It's just a matter of being able to work through it to understand what does it mean and when would I use it. And if we have time, we can talk about it. If not, I would say anyone that uh, wants more Meteorology 101, I love helping people because I'm a paramotor pilot. I want them to be safe. So if they want to email me, I'll gladly converse with them, text them, or whatever. That is open for everyone.
Well, you are more than welcome to be on the show every single Monday as our chief meteorologist of Air.TV.
Heck yeah.
So please come back every Monday
I would be very honored. I would be
that would
very
be
honored.
awesome. We would love for you to
Cool.
do that. Now,
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
it seems like normally we have people that need to get off after 1 hour. So Will Fly usually needs to, Kevin, I think Kyle also. So we're going to go ahead and spin the spinning wheel real quick. Can you also add, we got one person that's listening to us on our audio live stream through Podbean. It's the UNCTION. And if you're still in the room listening to this, UNCTION, I don't know how to say that. You are going to be on the spinny wheel of winning things also. So if you're still there, say hi. All right.
Cool.
Kevin,
That'd be funny.
Kevin, are you
Sean, you can't fly this week, but Scuba, you can fly this week. All right. If
There
he
you
was
go.
to do a weather forecast, I'm in Virginia, so I got a leg up because he's in the same state. So
So cool. So this is So fun. Yeah, Dave, you got to hang with us every Monday now. Because now
I
it's
will be
we're
honored.
spoiled. We're all spoiled now.
Well, I'm extremely honored. I can only tell you though that I will be on a cruise with no internet next Monday, so I won't be able
Oh
to do
no,
that.
we can't. No, you got to be. Oh no, cancel.
Last
Cayman
time I was on a
Islands?
cruise, I was on a podcast. We did a live stream on the podcast of the cruise. All
Haha.
right.
No,
So
my
we'll
wife
see
and
you.
I,
We'll
we've
see you
never
in 2
did.
weeks for sure.
Yeah, yes, that would be honored.
Ooh,
Did you
All
see
right.
this nerdy looking dude with kind of red hair? He's going on a cruise Monday too. So if y'all are on the same cruise to go to the Cayman Islands, that would be hilarious.
No, I don't have that. I don't have a wallet for that, but good for him.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, hopefully you'll have good weather. Look at all my chatters. I'm so excited tonight. Can I say welcome chatters and all
This
that?
is your time.
Go for it.
My favorite time of the Mondays. Hey, welcome chatters. Thank you for hanging with us tonight on Monday night. The only place to be is right here with all of us because we sure love you. Love my chatters. We got a lot of people in the chat tonight, so I'm gonna go through the names, say howdy, hi to all my peeps. So we got John Wayne Cowboy in the house. Hey, John. We got Kyle Neel, 555, Scuba, John Hutchins. Oh yeah, and the lovely Linda Anderson. Woo! And the applause. Where's the applause button? Go fly. And Jim's in the
Pom-poms,
house.
no
Cool Jim. We got Kevin Houston in the house. Dave Wert. Yes. Fly baby fly PPG Rodankies. How you doing, sweetie? We got Just Wanna Fly in the house. How you doing? We got Keely, Greg Laney, Mike Flominer. I probably say it wrong. Matt Sloper in the house. Daniel Savoy. CBs. The other Nick. Plainfield PPG. Raisin Sharp. And the lovely Denise Milstead in the house. And we got the UNC Junction. And we got Mike Thompson. Everybody is all ready to go. Good luck on the spinny winny wheel of winny things. There we go.
I just want to say while they're shuffling, two things. Number one, Lone Star Paramotor from LoneStarParamotor.com has been giving away something every week for us. And this is from Lone Star Paramotor. If you want to get up with them, go to LoneStarParamotor.com, get up with Ron Toran, and he will hook you up in the Lone Star State. So thank you very much, Ron, for helping us out, giving away cool stuff on our show. And check out LoneStarParamotor.com. Secondly, I looked over at the AI Companion, and it said that we were discussing the concept of parameteorology.
I like that.
I never heard of that before
haven't either.
until the AI said parameteorology. So we might have this new thing that's called I've always said micrometeorology, but
Well, Mike, yeah.
I think parameteorology is
Too hard to say.
we'll learn how to say it. I like that. I like that a lot. Parameteorology. So thank you, AI.
There you go.
No more names on the wheel.
All right. Good luck, everybody.
All bets are in. All bets are in. All right.
Okay.
Round
No more
round she
bets.
goes. Who's going to win this spinning
I'm
wheel
gonna
of winning things today?
say
Mike Thompson. I'll vote for Mike Thompson.
It's probably going to be somebody on the panel, so I'm going to say Scuba Steve.
Oh, Neel. No, I can't win.
I can't win this time. No way.
I'm gonna say Just Wanna Fly.
Well, tonight's
Wanna
show
fly.
we have David Wert. He's a parameteorologist now because he has retired from meteorology. So thank you so much for being on the show, buddy.
You're welcome.
Yes. I'm so enjoying
Greg
it.
Blaney says it's the suggestion that you only fly in paranormal weather. That's a
Okay.
good
There
one.
you go.
That was
There you
good.
go.
You know,
And because
Jane
my-
said something that made me think she may fly again, which is surprising because she said she wasn't, but now she's leaning towards maybe she will again, which is good for her.
Who said
Yeah.
I
that?
think it's going to be Plainfield PPG.
It
Yep.
looks like it.
Right
Yay.
on, man. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Winner,
Oh,
winner.
by the way,
chicken
we didn't
dinner.
plan this. Sean and I both having red shirts and the same cap. No, that was not planned. I mean,
So what does
honestly,
what does Plainfield PPG have to do, Sean?
Plainfield PPG, if you want to, just get up with Ron Toran over at Lone Star Paramotor. You can get up with him at ron@lonestarparamotor.com. Yeah,
So-
Scuba Steve and I both got our hat in the mail from Georgia Paramotor.
Georgia
And-
Paramotor.
And check it out, man. It was all good. I decided to put on a red shirt.
All stitched in there. It's a
Yeah.
nice hat. I mean,
That
my
is
old-
nice.
My old Paralife
Dang.
shirt. And I thought that Scuba
No,
Steve had
mine's-
a Paralife shirt on too, but he didn't.
mine says, according to chemistry, alcohol is a solution. There you go.
Jeez. Hey, we got to do a thumbnail.
I tried to get
Oh,
a Paralife
yeah.
shirt, but they
Yeah,
sold out at the fly-in. I think Will bought the last one or something.
I
Thumbnail.
ended up getting my shirt from as well Saturday.
What'd you say, babe? Damn it, Will.
What?
No, it was somebody. They grabbed the last shirt right before I did.
Oh. Hi, Munchkin. Love you, girl.
What's up, Munchkin? Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
No, I'm not. Don't do it yet. I gotta
Let me
get
see if I can try to get the heart. There we
Stupid
go.
mouse
Heart-
thing.
Oh, we're doing the.
Hold on,
Oh, I didn't
hold
know.
on. Gotta get rid of the mouse.
Yeah, I know that don't work for me, so I can try it
Yeah.
all, but it'll never work.
All right. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
And of course, it never works on a thumbnail. Come on.
We tried.
All right. Who needs to leave
Moving.
at the top of the hour? I know that Kyle does.
Yeah.
Kevin, Jim. All right. So Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick and how to get up with you.
So my name is Kyle. I'm the director of operations for Run Into the Sky. I'm currently in transition for trike training, actually. Hopefully to get to do that. So what I do is I try to actually get the best prices possible for any student or anybody that's looking to buy equipment. So get in contact with me. You can get a hold of me by my phone. It's 870-529-4220. Just shoot me a text. I'll get back with you as soon as possible. I can always try to work out deals. If you're veterans, you get an extra little bit of discount. So just remember that, guys. And also, we also help veterans as well for classes as well. So hit me up on that if you don't mind, if you'd like that. And if any other questions you got, just send me a message. I'll be happy to try to answer them as best as I can.
Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate you, buddy. I know that you texted me and said that you're really tired. You are a hardworking guy, so go get some sleep. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good day, guys.
All right. Kevin Houston, our
Thanks,
president of Runs to the Sky. I know that you got your own .com and stuff like that. You come over here almost every single weekend from Mississippi. We definitely appreciate you, Mr. President.
Yes, I won't be able to make it this weekend, but plan on coming back weekend after this. I'm Kevin Houston, president of Running to the Sky. You can find me. My .com is flying50.com. I post some things on there every once in a while.
Flying 50 sounds like you're a police officer.
Yes,
Are you
I
about
am.
ready to retire
Yeah.
and just come over here for the rest of your life, or what?
Yep, about 3 more weeks. I'm retiring. So
Oh, it's that long? I thought it was like 10 days away or something. 3 more weeks. Damn.
3 more weeks. Yep. So
They're going to party. You're going to have a nice party, I'm sure. Looks
oh
like.
yeah. Oh yeah, go and try to.
That's
Go and try
awesome.
to.
It comes up fast. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
it
does.
does. Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
But
I know
from
I'll
the
be
start of it-
retired 4 years already in June. It's
Wow.
like, just like that, it's like, how can it be?
From the
Jeez.
sound of it, though, I'm gonna be busier being retired than I am actually working. So we'll see how that goes.
Sounds like a good thing, though. It sounds like you'll have more fun, at least, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so. I
You will definitely find things to do.
Yep.
You will.
Hopefully it's just flying paramotors, but whatever.
That would be awesome if I can.
Excellent. Well, Kevin, Mr.
There you
Houston,
go.
Mr. President, Mr. Houston, we appreciate you, buddy. 3 more
Thank you,
weeks.
Kevin.
Thank you for the invite. I will be over there to for your celebration and have a good time. Can't wait.
Good deal.
I know that you got to get some sleep too. You're about ready to fall out too, right?
Close to it.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank y'all. We'll
Thanks,
see y'all later.
Kevin. Be
All right,
safe.
thank y'all.
Have a good one. Jim
Bye.
from Canada, eh? I see your QR code, your Care PPE and your Care PPG. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're our official sponsor for getting us all these really awesome stickers that we give away, calendars. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your .coms, and the cool stuff that you do for Run to the Sky.
Yeah, I've got a small printing company where I can print pretty much anything you need. And you can go to carepp.com and you'll be able to connect with me. And then I have careppg.com, which is where I post all my paramotor videos and having fun. And at least, you know what I need to do? I need to become an instructor so I don't end up, this is going to sound bad, playing with myself. I don't have anybody to fly with.
That's why I became an instructor. That's why I did it, because it's just hard to find people. So I'm like, I need to teach people so I have more people coming in so I can fly with more people. I hear you. I know how it is, and we might have to talk about that with David.
Being a mirror inspector is a job I could really see myself doing.
Oh my God.
Oh, Lord.
Just saying, y'all brought it up.
That is so great.
Oh,
I'm
my.
sorry. Maple syrup,
That's
Jim.
awesome.
Go ahead.
Yeah, anyway, I think I'm going to investigate that a little bit further. So just like Kyle was transitioning, I'll try and do some transitioning too, from a pilot to an instructor.
That's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to watch those.
Oh, wow, nice.
Because you're up in Canada and it's a little bit different up there than is down here in the States. So we'll definitely be watching you. And to watch his shenanigans, go to careppg.com and we'll be able to watch your transition. So thank you everything that you do, buddy. And how's the paramotor calendars going, and how do we check that out?
You can go to paramotor or ppgcalendar.com. You can upload pictures, and we've got a few pictures up there now. And it's coming together. So eventually
Y'all need to send in all your eclipse pictures that you got, all your paramotor eclipse pictures, because he's got plenty of room, I'm sure, to make adjustments on the calendar. So
you bet we do have room, that's for sure.
Send them.
You bet.
Is there a difference between an eclipse and an eclipse?
Yeah, it's either southern or northern is one of those.
Eclipse.
I know. How do you say it, right? Everybody says it different.
It's an
How do you say-
eclipse. I don't
how do
know
you
why
say
I say
tomato?
eclipse.
How do you say
Your
tomato?
eclipse, it was just to
tomato?
make it.
Just like a decal decal.
It's confusing because we have
Just like a decal,
we
right?
have Travis. It's Traverse City up here, right? And I always say Travis City, and it's not Travis City. It's Traverse City.
Oh, I would
So-
say traverse, but yeah.
I always
Don't
say it
all the
wrong.
paramotors in Canada have to have like N numbers or whatever for the?
Yeah, they're C number for.
Oh, C number. Okay.
For
Weird.
Canada.
They all do. They are all
They
registered.
all got C numbers.
Well, they're, I guess some of them are registered.
Yeah.
Ah.
You know how people are.
Yeah. Well, because that's part of the 103 thing where you're not supposed to have any kind of license on your paramotor if you're going to fly in the US, because then it's registered technically. So
Right.
we're not going to get into all that, but yeah. Okay. I got you.
Yeah, well, we can fly in the States regardless. It doesn't matter. We just fly under a sport license, basically.
Oh, there you go.
So lots of planes and things come across the border all the time.
Hell, I don't know. I think you drive further than you fly. You have drove some serious miles to go flying. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, I
Is
was
it
thinking the
drove
same
or is it
thing.
driven? But okay.
He drove and was driven into the ground. Just like
You bet.
Yep.
Thank
You
you
could
very
write a
much,
book,
Dave,
Jim.
for coming on. Man, that's some really incredible information. And
Oh,
if you're
yeah,
talking
definitely.
about it even further, I'll definitely be paying attention.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we're going to be continuing this after you guys go. We just want to make sure that, at the top of the hour here, you guys can go and not just where do they go? Where they go? So we definitely appreciate you, Jim, for everything you do for us, all the stickers, decals, calendars, everything that you printed up for us, everything you've done in the past. So thank you very much, Jim. We appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. You guys have a great evening.
Oh, hold
too.
on,
You too.
Jim. Hey, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Your story reminded me of my last visit with my doctor. You know why you want to become a flight instructor or for paramotors or whatever. But I went to the doctor last week and he looked at me really concerned, and he said, "Will, you got to stop playing with yourself." I'm like, "Dang, why?" And he said, "Because I'm trying to examine you." You can like edit that part out if you want, Stefan, but
No, this is this show is rated PPG, so I think that falls underneath of that. So we're good.
you'll be sleeping tonight and you'll wake up laughing because you'll get it. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's
Will,
funny.
you
Really
got to go
appreciate
too,
it.
or are you gonna hang out with us for a while?
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to run, but
All right,
Dave,
wait, before Will leaves, I got to tell you one more thing. To make a long story short, I became an editor.
that's a joke.
It's a joke. It
Long
goes
story
over
short.
everybody's freaking head, apparently.
Yeah, it
I get
did.
A long story short, I became an editor.
Dude, I think we watch the same
Oh.
TikToks.
Jeez. Okay.
I think I'm going to start saying that to my mother-in-law. Hey, become an editor.
Will has to leave because the Dairy Queen's going to close.
Yeah, that's no joke.
No, he's going to a cookout. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Dave,
Poor
really,
Will.
it's been a pleasure, man. Love
Thank you
the
so
topic of
much.
weather.
It's
And,
an honor being here with all of you.
right
Yeah.
on.
What's going on tomorrow night, Will?
Tomorrow night is Tuesday night hangout, 8 p.m. on YouTube. So if you'd like to join us, we're subject to talk about paramotors or anything else. We have no topic. Oh, scratch that. Tomorrow's a special night. We have David Wolf on tomorrow night. He's going to be talking all about bad apples.
Oh, good.
And
Cool.
he'll have some announcements for us. It's definitely, you want to tune in for that. So tomorrow night, 8 p.m., go to ppgshane.com and it'll take you right there. And if you live in the Southeast, check out our page on Facebook, Southeast Paramotor Group. Love to have you. If you want to check out my videos, you can search for Will Fly on YouTube.
Very cool.
Or
Yeah.
go to willflyppg.com. Okay.
That's right. That's right. willflyppg.com.
Cool.
All
Been
right.
fun,
Well,
guys.
thank you so much for everything you do,
Thanks,
buddy.
Will.
All right.
We'll
Good
see you
night.
tomorrow on your show.
All right, good night.
All right.
Yeah, Will.
That was fun. We spun the spinning wheel of winning things. We gave away some stuff, talked about some cool stuff, said goodbye for now or farewell for a couple of our people, our paramotor pilots. And
Our
now
peeps.
our peeps. There we go. That's a good one.
The peeps.
And now we're going to be
Yes.
continuing this really cool interview with David about weather. He's a parameteorologist. He used to be a meteorologist, but he's retired since 2020. Hey, hindsight is 2020. And now we're doing all the cool things about I guess paramotor micrometeorology. So I think the last question was apps and stuff like that. What are the best apps we can use? What I saw that you had Windy Red. I also agree Windy Red is better than Windy Blue. But go ahead and tell us more stuff about the weather. Remember, all the links are down below in the description, so you can check out all those later on or listening to this Memorex. remember those commercials? Is it live
Oh,
or is it-
yes, absolutely.
I'm old, so I remember them.
I got it.
All right, David, all you, buddy.
All right, well, let's go back to the screen share here and see if we can get the resources up. Okay, so that site from College of DuPage is great. But a lot of the material that you're going to see on that site is in Greenwich Mean Time or Zulu time.
We don't see it on our screen. You'll have to
Oh,
share
you
this.
don't? Okay, let me see. I thought I
Yep.
had.
Just go down to share screen again.
Hold on. Did it go?
Nope.
Nope, not yet.
Yikes.
Yeah, go down to the share screen button again.
I did. And I pushed it 3 times. Let's do Alt S, it says, and see if that'll do it. Did it work?
I don't see anything, but
Yikes. All right.
I can bring up a copy over here on my side if you want.
Yeah. Let me see this again.
Okay.
Alt and S at the same time will share your screen. I mean, if that works for you.
That's what it said. All
There
right.
you go. It's
Good,
working.
good. Hooray. All right.
All right.
So yeah, let's this next thing is just a link to what are we looking at? Because there may be some radar or satellite imagery, and it's not going to be your local time because, okay, what if it's 2 p.m. your time? Well, it's not 2 p.m. on the time zone to the east or west of you. So what the entire world has done is they've standardized their time to Greenwich Mean Time, which is now a Universal Time Coordinated, UTC or Zulu time. And so for anyone that's like, okay, that thing says valid 12Z, but they have no idea what 12Z means, then go ahead and take a look at either this. So let's just say 12Z, because the UTC or Zulu time would be 1200. So what that is in Greenwich, England, it's noon. But say if you're in Eastern Daylight Time, it's 8 a.m. If you're in Eastern Standard Time, because you lose an hour, then it's 7 a.m. And you can follow this all the way through for Mountain Pacific, whatever, or you just look down here at the bottom and say, okay, whatever that Z time or UTC time is, subtract this amount of time because England is ahead of us in time. So how far ahead of us it is based on what time zone you're in. And so then you can just do the deductions to get an idea. I know for me, East Coast time right now, all midnight is going to be 4 hours difference from what it is. So I would just subtract 4 from that. So noon becomes 8 a.m. But that way you'll have an idea of what is this all about. So that's what that's there for. We had already looked at the satellite imagery that comes from the College of DuPage COD site. You can see it in there. And then the radar will also come from them, which you can get from that site, which you can just click on. So we already did satellite. We don't need to do it again. Another thing I did want to bring up, though, is the compass, because people will go, well, the wind is coming from 270 degrees at 10 miles an hour. Well, what is 270 degrees? Well, it's based on 360-degree compass. And so if the wind is coming from 270 degrees, it's coming from the west and moving to the east. If the winds were from 90 degrees, they're coming from the east, going to the west. If they were from 180 degrees, they're coming from the south, going to the north. So if you'll see on some of these apps, 255 degrees at 10 miles an hour, at least you'll know, okay, that's going to be just south of due west or about west southwest. And again, I just have that up there just so that we're all talking the same talk, because there's going to be a lot of these apps that give these compass directions or satellite or radar or something else models that will give UTC or Z time, and you won't have any idea. And then you'll be off by maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. It makes a big difference as to what you thought was going to happen and what the forecast was saying for the right time.
And
So,
also, too, your runway numbers that you always see.
yes, excellent. That's right. So if you see a runway 160, as you're landing on that 16, you're moving from 160 toward the northwest, actually. So that compass heading will help you a lot too. So let's go ahead on the radar imagery. And again, this all comes from the College of DuPage. But what this is, see all these little circles? These are all the National Weather Service Doppler radars and actually air traffic control terminal weather Doppler radars for many of the bigger airports. But what there are is they're mosaic. So what they're doing is they're taking all the radars in the entire United States and they're overlapping all of their images to produce a national composite of radars. And the brighter the colors, usually the worse the weather. Remember, we were looking earlier in the Arkansas area. So let's kind of go to this sub-regional sector.
Yeah, where I am right now, getting pummeled.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you can loop this too. So you can see those big thunderstorms continue to move southeast. And these really big red colors are the very, very, very heavy rain, some hail. The lighter greens are light rain. The yellows are moderate to maybe heavy rain. But the brighter these colors, see if we even go down to a local scale and see if we can pick up the nastiness. Yeah. This was one monster. I can be sure that it was putting out probably 50, 60 mile an hour winds as well as maybe quarter size hail, maybe even golf ball size hail. These were
Wow.
big boys, but now that the sun is setting and there's no focusing mechanism to keep it going, it's just dying with the heat of the day. It's kind of like turning off your stove. The water just stops slowly boiling and everything goes to sleep. And that's what's happening in the atmosphere there.
Can you
But
tell us really quick then, as far as like, I mean, I understand, but for the listeners, how
Mhm.
the sun comes through the atmosphere, through space. Space is cold.
yes,
Everything above us is cold, but only us on the ground feels the heat. So how does that work from the sun
right.
heating the ground and then producing all of our weather?
Yeah, there are various heating and cooling mechanisms. You have radiant heat. So think about maybe being in your living room and you turn on a fire. And from a distance, you can feel the effects of the fire. It feels warm even though you're not touching the flame. You could be 20 feet away from it, and you're getting this radiant heat. So that's a form of heat. There's a thermal, the conductive heat, which is literally when you touch it, it's very hot. So you have a radiative component, you have a conductive component. What will happen is as the sun is shining, especially as it gets higher and higher, and later in the year or in the summer, the angle gets steeper and steeper, the component of radiative heat increases. And so what it's doing is in the outer space, there is no molecules. Actually, temperature is the average kinetic energy per molecule. And so as this sun is heating the atmosphere, wherever there's molecules, those molecules are vibrating a little bit faster. And that's its kinetic energy. And so the faster they're faster they're moving, uh, the higher their heat potential per molecule. And that's basically what temperature is. So as you get deeper and deeper into the atmosphere, closer to the ground, the ground has what we call usually a higher albedo. So it gets the conductive and the radiative potential. It's called the shortwave radiation from the sun. And so it heats the ground very, very quickly, as opposed to the atmosphere, which it does heat, but it doesn't heat as quickly. And so that's why your ground temperature will be much, much warmer. And then as you go higher in the atmosphere, it gets colder and colder. Now it gets colder because there's also less dense atmosphere. There's less molecules, so you're not heating them as readily. But the lower atmosphere usually is very warm. That's why if you touch a highway, hot macadam, on a day that's 90 degrees, probably the temperature of that hot pavement is probably going to be 110 because it is just absorbing all of that radiative heat from the sun and its temperature is rising. Sand is the same way. You go out on a beach, you're going to burn your feet pretty readily if it's white sand because it's just absorbing all of this radiant energy from the sun.
Why does
So,
a darker color absorb more than a lighter
yes.
color?
It's called albedo, and the reason for that is it absorbs more readily the radiative transfer of heat from the sun. And so it holds it and then re-radiates it in a long wave form of radiation. Whereas if it's bright, it reflects a lot of that light back. It can't absorb it as efficiently. Therefore, it doesn't heat up as rapidly. And that's actually what happens everywhere as the atmosphere heats up in the morning. If you're, let's just say you're out on a flat open field, and let's just say the gradient wind or the wind, there is no wind. As that ground starts to heat, it heats unevenly because of the differences of the texture, the differences of the angle of attack, the differences of the albedo, whether it's dark or lighter. And so the ground heats up a little differently, and that creates the first irregularities in the thermal profile of the lower atmosphere. And that's where you start to get the little bubbles of air, the updrafts. And as they rise, they are filled from beneath. If the air is rising, it has to fill that in. It's like a little mini vacuum. And so the air comes in from all sides. As that parcel of air goes up, air comes in to fill it from below. So if let's just say you've got a bubble that bursts, all of a sudden there's winds from any different direction filling that little bubble underneath it. And that's where you begin to start to see the variability of the wind direction and the speed as these bubbles increase in aerial coverage and also their intensity as the heat of the day continues. That's why it's best to fly within maybe the first couple of hours of sunrise, because by 2 or 3 hours into the day, especially if it's later in the year, say in the summer, that sun is high enough that ground is heating very quickly and it's heating irregularly, where you're then beginning this variance of the thermals, and then you're going to get very bumpy, almost dishwashery type of flight, and that's no fun. And conversely, in the evening, of course, it's better as you fly closer to evening, because then the atmosphere is slowly slowing down that percolation. The sun is lower. It's not heating the ground as readily. So those big bubbles are slowly slowing down. And you can get usually maybe about 2 hours in the morning with good conditions. But a lot of times, especially in the summer and especially lower latitudes, if you go out 2 hours before sunset, the ground is still so hot that even though the sun is getting lower, it's still bubbling like crazy. And you may have to wait literally until 30 or maybe 60 minutes before sunset before it actually evens out enough where you'll get a more smooth laminar type of flight.
So we have a better opportunity to go fly in the morning for a longer period of time.
Yes,
than
absolutely.
in the evening during the summer, for sure.
Yes. And if you have a morning where there's a lot of cloud cover, you may be able to delay or lengthen the amount of time that you would be able to fly, because that sun is not able to as easily penetrate the ground, therefore not as easily able to warm the ground. So those bubbling, that percolation, the overturning of the atmosphere, the turbulence doesn't happen as quickly. So then you sometimes can get into mid-morning, maybe even late morning in some instances. And especially at the higher latitudes in the winter, very frequently you can fly all day long, especially if you have some type of cloud cover to filter the sun. By the way, with this radar, remember we were looking at the satellite and seeing those outflow boundaries. This is a really good picture right here. See this arc coming out of
Yeah.
this? That's an outflow boundary. And actually, this is not cloud. What these Doppler radars are, they're able to look at anything that can scatter the radar power back to the radar. And that can be a density discontinuity. So in this area, the temperature is probably 20 degrees colder than the warmer air out here. And so it causes a little bit of a refraction of that power, and then causes the ability to be able to see this thing bowing out away from the parent storm. So let's just say you were right here and you thought it was safe to fly. Well, you see what happened just within a short period of time. This thing overtook you and you got blasted with a 30-mile-an-hour wind from the east. So satellite is really good. Radar is really good to be able to give you a good idea of just what to expect over the next several hours and whether it may or may not be safe to fly.
Excellent.
Okay, so then let's look at another thing. We've talked about most of this stuff. Let's get into some of the numerical models. And come on, you can do it. All right. So again, all of this comes from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, but the College of DuPage, I find, has done a really good job of parsing this data in a way that is pretty intuitive. What I'd like to call attention to is these are all the models, short range models. They may only go out maybe 9, 10, 11 hours because they're very, very high resolution. And you go, well, what's high resolution? They're sampling points. So their ability to depict what the atmosphere is going to be temporally and spatially is much, much denser. Think of a very dense net. You can catch a lot more fish, and you can catch a lot of even smaller fish as well as the big fish. The smaller the sampling size, or I should say, the denser the net is, with these shorter range models, but they only go out for short periods of time, just simply because I was telling you before, the error can explode very quickly, and therefore they're not particularly reliable beyond maybe the first 12 or 15 hours, and that's why they truncate them at that range. Medium range, that will go out a few days. They're kind of like your best bet as far as looking at both the shorter range, but also being able to get out maybe 3 days or so into the future, because they're pretty dense in their net, but not as dense as the short range, but not so coarse that they're going to miss some of the big fish that could really come to bite you, and you wouldn't even know it when it comes to an accurate forecast. So these are the ones, especially if you're thinking of just flying in the next several days, that I think would be really reliable. And then these
And
long
what do
range,
what do those stand for?
a lot of them are like HRRR, these rapid refresh models, the nested grid models, which like NAM, or the European model. I'm not even quite sure what all of the acronyms are that. The Global Forecast System, GFS. So they're all based on a longer word for the model. But most meteorologists reference them in as far as their acronyms.
Okay.
So I would recommend the NAM nest. And from here, you say, okay, where do I live in the United States? And I'll just go ahead because I'm partial to this area, and I'll blow this up. This is helpful to get an idea of, hey, Okay, I'm not going to fly today. I'm not even fly tomorrow, but what about the next day? This is got a temporal and a spatial resolution that is pretty darn accurate to the hour. Now, that doesn't mean it's actually going to be this way, but it's pretty accurate most of the time. So here you see all the precipitation. We were looking to the west as this frontal system moves in to the eastern part of the Central Plains, more like the Ohio Valley. And what you can do is you can just either loop it if you want to loop it, or what I do is, you won't be able to see it from, shut this off, move that back, is take your arrow on your computer and just go to the side, your right arrow, and
Yeah, I
you
see
can
what you're
look
doing.
every single hour what its model representation is for where this precipitation is going to be. Now, this is up here is why it was really good to have referencing what is this model saying? Because you might say, well, that's 10 o'clock. No, it's 10Z, 10 Universal Coordinated Time, or Greenwich Mean Time. So you have to subtract in the East Coast this time of year 4 hours from that. So that would be what, 6 a.m. in the morning. This would be 12Z. So that would be 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it's really good to know what you're looking at as far as time so that you can accurately place what the model is saying with the appropriate time, because
Can you
that is not.
change that to your local time by any chance?
No, I wish you could, because these models are basically taking data that is hemispheric and hemispheric, global, regional, and continental in scale. And you have to have a standard time. So everything will always reference the standard time, which is
Okay.
the Z time. And so then you have to just make the local adjustments. And it gets
Gotcha.
pretty easy after a while, but at least then you won't, well, this is noon. No, it's not noon. So people say, well, the model was wrong because it said it was noon and the precipitation was here. Well, no, that's 8 a.m. Eastern time. So you can kind of see it slowly falls apart, but it's still getting into the area. And so if I was thinking about maybe wanting to fly tomorrow morning, just looking at the radar, 8 a.m., okay, I'm fine. I live out here, so I'm fine. But let's see if I wanted to try an evening flight. Probably not. I mean, here we are at 6 and 7 p.m., and you've got some pretty big thunderstorms in the area, all of which are going to have outflow boundaries. So you might get lucky, but I certainly wouldn't be counting on, if I needed to have a tandem flight, setting it up for tomorrow afternoon or evening, because that's just not likely to be a good flight window for that. And so this model will go out to 60 hours. It truncates at 60 hours just simply because it is fairly high detail, not as high detail as the shorter range models, but good. So you basically can have your cake and eat it too with this model, and that's why I'm referencing the NAM Nest, but all of these are good to look at. And you said, well, is there a way to look at all of them simultaneously? So I don't have to keep running through each different model, trying to remember the time and the placement. And that's what a plume generator is all about. So go to that. And this is where
Plume.
plume, Plume, plume generator. So when that comes up, you can kind of just expand it to, I'm going to go ahead.
Can you show Arkansas?
Yeah, let's go to Arkansas. If I could get up there. There we go. Okay. So you can have it automatically overlay any number of things. Like in this case, we've got the radar data overlaid right now. I could bring in actually the infrared satellite if I wanted to on top of that, although I'd probably have to turn off one to the other. But the point of this is these give you all the sampling locations of the models in any area that you want. So if you can tell me maybe where in Arkansas you want, I'm going to go ahead and click on a page
Go
to,
ahead and go to like Russellville. We're pretty close to Russell.
okay. Okay. So you click on that and then you go visualize the data. Now you're going to get a plume. And what a plume is it's all of these models up here, everything integrated in time and space down here for the next several days, all the way into next Tuesday, because some of the longer range models will go out that far. And of course, okay, you expect snow in the next several days? No, but let's go down to maybe precipitation. None of the, well, there's one model that actually thinks there might be a little initially, but this dark dots, that's what's verifying. In other words, you didn't have any rain at this location. Some of the models said you should have maybe a small amount of rain, but they're not right. And the reason why they're not right is some of the models were thinking that one of those little showers of thunderstorms is going to move through that point and produce that amount of precipitation. And you can see as you move your cursor, you can see all of these changing. So you can see what models are saying there should be certain things. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is the preponderance of evidence. So many of the models are saying sometime between Thursday morning and Thursday evening, there will be precipitation. I mean, one model says, no, there isn't going to be any because you're not getting up at all. But here, many of these models are saying anywhere from 4/10 of an inch to maybe even an inch in that time frame. And then some say beyond that time frame, for Thursday night going into Friday, there's even more rain, bringing the total up to 1.5 inches. And then later, maybe Sunday going into Monday, another round of rain where it goes up to 2.5 or 2 to 2.5 inches. This is the average, the model average. So these plumes are really good because then you can look at the preponderance of evidence. And so you may say, okay, there is a chance of rain on Thursday. Probably not a good day to fly because many of the models are saying the same thing. They may have different amounts, but they're saying the same things. Now you can do this with temperature. All of these are different lines of temperature during the day. How hot it's going to be, when it's going to be hot, when it's going to get cold, all the way out. Now, of course, you have many fewer lines as you go farther out because now you're dealing with only the long-range models. The mid-range models are truncating here. Short-range models are truncating here. But gives you a good preponderance of evidence. So if you were a meteorologist, you're making a forecast for what your high temperature of that location was going to be on Wednesday, you would say, okay, the models are all showing something between 83 and 86 or 7, and they're all really tightly clustered. And so I would say the preponderance of evidence is very, very good that you're going to be plus or minus 2 degrees from 84 degrees for a high at that location because they're so tightly clustered. Whereas if you see something like this, there's a good clustering of temperatures, maybe falling down into the low 60s by late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. But there's one model that says no, and probably because of clouds, it won't get that cold. So you're a paramotor pilot, and yeah, you might be influenced by temperature to some degree, but most of the time you don't really care too much about the temperature. You'll dress accordingly. You're worried more about, is there going to be precipitation, and what's the preponderance of evidence that says there's going to be precipitation? And then you're also going to be looking at winds. And so, I mean, you can get dew point temperatures and also wind direction sometimes. In this case, this point has no wind direction, but it would look just like this, but it'd be on that 360 scale, and you'd be able to get an idea of where the winds are going to be coming from so that you can kind of think about how you're going to set up in your LZ. But
Looks like we're going to have lots of wind and lots of rain for Thursday, huh?
Yeah, and a system's coming through that is the reason for that. But one caution I would say is like today. Monday was probably a pretty good day to fly if you didn't have any outflow boundaries in the area, just simply because look at the preponderance of evidence of all the winds for most of the day were well below 10 miles an hour. And only a few little outliers. And these outliers are caused by the gusts. Like if you have a really hot day, you know what it's like. You're usually some gusty of winds because you've got the bubbles of the atmosphere going up, and you just get that erraticness in both direction and speed due to the thermal activity. So almost always in the later afternoon, you're going to see these little spikes, but they're not representative of the mean wind. Therefore, on a day like this, where there's so much clustering well below 10, it could very well have been a good day to fly. Now, I don't know. I'm not out there, and that's where your visual can really help. But as you go forward, like tomorrow morning, really good. Less than 5 miles an hour. During the afternoon, again, it warms up, and you're going to get all the variability of winds. The average is still below 10. You just would have to see how variable it is. See, we're getting into the time of year now where the sun is getting up high enough, it's heating enough that you're going to get a lot of this bubbling in the atmosphere. And so evening flights are a little harder inland. Now, if you're near the coast, you got that wind off the water, so your air never heats up as much. And so it usually stays pretty consistent and you don't have the gustiness. But inland, you do get all these thermals. So morning for Tuesday looks good. Morning for Wednesday looks good. Then it gets up. Thursday, like you said, forget it. It's just from maybe an hour or two outside of morning. If it's not raining, that's why you would want to look for if it was a threat of rain. During the day, it's just terrible. And even during the evening, it's still terrible. So probably not good. So you want to look at these stretches of nice, long, relatively low wind speeds without these huge spikes that would indicate something volatile is happening. Usually this would be associated with frontal passages, maybe widespread thunderstorms without flow boundaries. But these plumes are really helpful to learn because they're really good at being able to quickly show a whole array of data from all different models and see where the preponderance of evidence is, and then make the forecast, your own personal forecast for your LZ accordingly. So that's what that's all about. There is another plume generator. This is from the Storm Prediction Center, which is a NOAA site too. They're the ones that issue tornado watches and warnings and stuff like that. And same type of thing. Let's go into Arkansas again. And as you zoom up, it will give you all the points. So did you say you wanted this one?
Well, I'm in Conway right now, but so off to the right a little bit. And then Searcy would probably be the closest to where our school is.
Okay, so click on that. And up here, you'll get all of the parameters that it will display, 3-hour temperatures. Now these are, again, this is from the Storm Prediction Center. So they're focusing on the instability of the atmosphere. So it's going to get into some things that most paramotor pilots will have no desire to look at, like the convective available potential energy, which is CAPE. I mean, anyone can look on the internet and see what CAPE is and why it's significant. It basically gives you an idea of the potential of energy in the atmosphere. But the things I think are going to be very important is, okay, temperature, you want to know how to dress with the days ahead. And again, everything is in Z time, but then you can see what day it is. So here it would be 0Z. So my time, it would be 8 p.m. Eastern time on May 3rd. But that's the beginning of the new day. So it's actually 8 p.m. You've got to subtract. It would be May 2nd at 8 p.m. because this is midnight Greenwich Mean Time. So midnight's a new day for London. So that's why it's saying the 3rd. But temperature is good. People want to know how to dress. but precipitation is obviously important. So you're looking at all the instances of the chance of precipitation. We saw some of that convective activity out there earlier this evening, so some of the models are picking up on it, but then there's nothing until we get to this time frame, which I don't know, is that going to be Thursday? Hopefully it's Thursday. Unfortunately, there's just give you the dates there, but then you see all this chance of precipitation there, and then how much totally there might be over time. So there's a lot of stuff in here that is helpful. I don't use this as much because the earlier plume models give you more, like the wind direction, the wind speed, the variability of the winds, where this is just a different representation that's more focused on like the potential for severe weather, but it does give you some additional things like precipitation and temperature that some people might want to know. So I figured I'd throw it into that resource. The only other thing is, if anyone ever wants to know about, okay, what's the sunrise and sunset time? And I would imagine for the most part, your phone gives that to you now, but you could just type your city in and then it will give you the tables for sunrise, sunset, astronomical, twilight, noon. All of that information is in here, and you can just go forward through the entire year if you want, based on what month you're looking at, even what year you're looking at. So this is a really good site to have available for consultation too. This one, Ryan Carlton, is a really good site. It's actually a balloonist's site, but the reason why I like this, and what you would do is you just type in any location and it would give you the closest data point to represent your flight. I fly out of New River Valley Airport here in southwestern Virginia in Dublin. But I like the Ryan Carlton site because you get everything in an understandable way. He has changed it to what is your local time and what is the date and what is it in feet. And so what it's doing is it's taking a look at, in this case, the rapid refresh model, which truncates it, I think, about maybe 21 hours or so. Very, very, very high resolution model. And because of that, it samples a lot of sampling points vertically as well as every hour.
And that's why on that site it says 98 feet instead of 100,
Yes.
and 436 feet instead of just 400 or something like that. It's just weird numbers.
Yes, exactly, because it's that accurate. But those are its sample points. Its grid resolution is at these levels. Now, one reason why is it's normalizing it to the elevation of the station, 2175. So its sampling point could very well be, I don't know, maybe 2273 feet. But that would be at ground level, or I should say, zero is actually at 2175 feet. So if its sampling point was at 2273 feet, that equates to 98 feet above the ground. And so it does all that math for you, which is really good. But if I wanted to consider flying in the morning, you just go to the right here and you can hit this arrow. And I know you all probably are very familiar with it, but your audience may not. But I would highly recommend this because you get a really good idea of, okay, 7 a.m. wind from 276. So that's from the west or just north of due west. And that's why understanding that 360 is up there earlier that you can consult it. Calm winds, 58 degrees with a 48-degree dew point. And as I go higher in the atmosphere, the winds start coming up, but they're not coming up really quickly. And you really almost have to get to about 1,000 feet above the ground level before you're hitting 18 knots, which is, I think, about 21 miles an hour, still from the west. So some of the things that a pilot would want to look at is, are these directions changing very, very quickly? If they are, that's called directional shear. And that is a danger because if you have a big switch of wind direction over a very shallow vertical depth, that can be a little uncomfortable and can even be borderline dangerous if you get a huge, say, like 180-degree shift of wind. And especially if you couple that with a significant change of wind speed, that would then be the speed shear. So you can have the directional shear, change of direction with height, or speed shear, which is change of speed with height. So there may be some situations, I've seen this before, and you could probably go onto YouTube and see it, where a person is flying and it's calm wind, and it would show up here, it would be like 0, 1, 3, 5, 30. Within
Yes.
100 feet, going from maybe west or 0 degrees, you don't really have a direction. It's got to put a direction. So it says 276. But let's just say it was like 276 at 0, 270 at 1, 260 at 3, and then 090 at 30. That would be probably where there's a very, very sharp inversion layer where it's very, very cold. And then above it, it's well mixed. The temperatures jump up and the winds switch in both direction and speed. That would be exceptionally dangerous because as soon as the top of your glider hits that layer, it just folds over. And then all of a sudden you wonder where the freight train came when it was all so nice for the lower 300 feet of your flight.
We also
So
have to worry about the same direction, 000, then 30 in the
yes,
same direction.
yes,
What
absolutely.
would you think as far as like if it's 000, then all of a sudden at 1,000 feet it goes to 30. That's dangerous, obviously.
Yes,
But
it is.
what would be, you know, tolerable? What would be okay? 5 mile an hour difference, 10, 20, 15? Where's the limit? Do you think?
I think it will have to do with a couple of things. One, it would have to do is that direction changing markedly as that wind is changing? Because if you have 2 strikes, you're almost out. You can get away with one as long as the other isn't changing as well. Um, 5 knot wind changes aren't that much between each of these levels. Even 10 might not be that much, but I would be a little concerned about seeing much more than that. Now, there's 98 feet between these two levels, and there's what, 160, I don't know, do the math.
163.
Yes, thank you. 163 between this one. But as you go higher, now look at the differences. It's in the hundreds of feet or even thousands of feet as you get higher. So seeing big changes down here is going to be a lot less tolerable because you're not very far vertically between those changes as you might see up here when you're going from 2080 to 2775. It's almost 700-foot difference. And so if you got a 10 knot change here, it'd be a little bit more understandable because it's averaged. Well, you hope it's average. You don't know what's happening in between here, but assuming that it's a 10 knot increase, which is 12 miles an hour difference over 700 feet versus if you saw it go 0 to 12 here in 98 feet. That would be pretty significant. So you have to kind of look at what the elevational differences are, but I think you make a really good point. You don't want both happening simultaneously. You can get away with a little bit more if only one is happening, whereas the other one isn't being changing that much. And not only are you just looking at, okay, when am I taking off, but maybe I'm going to be in the air an hour or two. So looking forward, what's happening? And not really much. Directionally, it's not changing that much. So this would not be a bad time to fly, assuming all the other things. Yeah, well, maybe it's not windy, but it's raining. So you need to look at the rain potential and all that. But this is a really good, very high resolution site by just simply typing in your location. It's going to give you the nearest data point and then provide it for you in a way that's pretty intuitive. So, and then I guess the last thing I had is windy. Windy is almost like the encyclopedia of weather information. There's so much here that we could probably have an entire broadcast just on the nuances of what is all this stuff.
Can you
What?
go through the aerogram for us?
Yes. Okay. So airgram is really helpful because just like the Ryan Carlton site, what he's doing is he's taking all this data and he's representing it in an intuitive fashion. But this is actually the meteorological vector representation of a lot of that data. And so let's go to a place where we're going to look at, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then you're going to have to really kind of get down here. And on the bottom, it tells you the times. So that's good. If you have a magnifying glass or can, let me see if I can try. Yeah, I can. Okay, we'll do it that way. Make it a little easier to see. So just for the fun of it, because we were looking at tomorrow morning at about 8 a.m. These big fat circles mean calm winds. So this is 1,000 kilopascals, which people go, well, what the heck is that? I have no idea what a kilopascal was, or 1,000 millibars. The best thing I can do is say that at 850 millibars at this level, that equates to about 46 to 4,800 feet. So it gives you an idea of the depth of the atmosphere to get up to this level. So you're already at about almost 5,000 feet. And that would be MSL. So you may find that the first barbs, if you're in, say, the high plains where your ground is at 3,000 feet, start here at maybe 900 millibars. And then you only have a very short distance to get to 850 because you're only 1,800 feet from your ground at 3,000 to that. But here I'm closer to sea level than the high plains would be. So I can see a lot. But basically you're going to look at the time and then you're going to go vertically. So 8 a.m. So at the ground level, you see the 0. That means calm. If you see this little, I have to get it even bigger here. Oops. Hash marks. Let's start with something easy. This hash mark with these 2 long barbs means the wind is coming from this direction. So it's coming from the southwest. Each hash mark is 10 knots. So this would be 20 knots. 20 knots, it's a nautical term. It doesn't equate to miles an hour. 20 knots is, I think you have to go 1.15. Multiply this times 1.15 to convert to miles. So that's about 23 miles an hour coming from the southwest at this level. And I'm going to say this level is probably about 2,800 feet or so. So nothing, calm, calm. And then as you get above 2,000 feet, now you've got a 20 knot wind. So this is a pretty safe area to fly, but you're going to get a shear factor pretty significantly if you push it up to 2,000 to 3,000 feet. This is even worse. This is about 37, 38 miles an hour with light southwest winds before you hit this shear layer. So these are the type of things that you would look for and go, okay, I really, if I'm going to be flying, I want to keep it low today, keep it below 1,000 feet, because if I get up too high, I'm going to hit this. And I just don't know over this depth. This depth here is probably about 800 feet. If it's going to go from calm to 23 miles an hour in a very short vertical distance, Or no, it's just from that sample point to this sample point, it's gradual and you'd be able to do it. I don't know, but it would be something that you would definitely be wanting to look for. So these are all giving you an idea of where's the direction coming from, southwest, southwest, and the speeds. So the Ryan Carlton site kind of makes it a lot easier, but this is what that airgram is all about. You go forward, and so you can look all the way up literally to 300 kilopascals, which, well, 500 millibars is about 18,000 feet. 300 is probably up around 30,000 feet or so. I forgot my conversions. I'd have to look at that again. But you're not flying up here. You're not even flying up here because 500 millibars is halfway through the atmosphere, basically. All of our flight is down low. And so this shows you temperatures, and you can zoom up on that. Maybe you'll be able to see, or I'll be able to see. Yeah, like 68 is that contour, and they're going by nines. So that's probably what, 77 here. So from about 2 p.m. to almost 11 p.m., it's warmer than that curve. So you're in the 70s here, and that's where your directions are coming from: northwest, northwest, west, and well, I should say north, northwest, northwest, west, northwest. So let's get back to the barbing because we'll need to explain that. These full barbs are 10 knots. The half barbs are 5 knots. So calm, calm, 20 knots. 10 knots, 10 knots, 25 knots, because you have 2 full ones and a 5, full 3, so that's 30 knots, 40 knots, and then this one then becomes 50 knots. So if you have a big boy like that, that's 50 plus a half bar, that's 55 knots. So now you're pushing over 60 miles an hour, but you're way up there anyway. So that's how to read these things. If there's nothing calm, it's a 0. If there's a little hash mark, it's 5 knots. And what 5 knots is basically 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 knots. It's in that range. They don't go to the exact one from the southwest. So pretty light winds from the southwest, light winds from the southwest. It's just once you get to the full bars, now you're going to 12 miles an hour, or 10 knots. That's about at the limit that most people would like to fly without beginning to get into enough turbulence that you begin to feel a little uncomfortable. Well, it doesn't mean you can't safely fly. It's just, it's going to be a little bit more bouncy than you would like. And this gives you an idea of the cloud layers through this time period. So you see all these clouds and you go, oh my gosh, it's going to be cloudy. Well, no, I mean, you're looking up at the cirrus level at about 30,000 plus feet, maybe some altocumulus at about the 6 to 8,000 feet here. These are lower though. This is all probably less than 3,000, and the possibility that you're actually getting stratus, maybe in the hundreds of feet, or even fog. And when you've got calm winds like this, then that could be fog, and you may have to wait an hour or two for it to burn off and then lift. And that's what you're seeing here. It's burning from the ground up, and the base of the cloud layer is getting higher and higher, and then it dissipates. And you've seen that a lot on these foggy mornings where the fog gradually slowly lifts, it thins, maybe comes some lower clouds, and then after it mixes out, the drier air aloft mixes into it as these bubbles start, and it just dies, and you end up with a clear day. So you can see a lot with this this airgram. Now there's a wind thing that I really like too, and this is where I was talking about the rule of 40. That's just my personal rule. And what this is it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the primary models. This gives you your grid space. So 10 kilometers is 6.2 miles. So this is a European model. It's one of the more reliable long-range models, but it's got a big net that's got big grid spacing. So a lot of fish can swim through those openings. It's not going to catch all the nuances like gust fronts and outflows and things like that. It's just too big of a grid. But it gives you the ability to go way out into the future if you want, because it's a coarser model. The NAM 5 kilometer, that's about 3.1 miles between each of the net grid points. So this is the one that I really like because it, as I was saying earlier, it gives you your cake and eat it too.
I've always heard that NAM stands for North American model. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
That is North American model. And then you've got a global forecast system, I think, and then the European, I don't know what their acronym is in here, HRRR's high resolution model, rapid refresh model, hourly rapid refresh model, or something like that.
What is
But
icon?
I don't know what that is. What I think that is I think, and I'd have to literally go on Google and look that up just like anyone else would. I think it's a composite of a model or uses a model composite for its representation. I'm not
That one
sure.
seems to be the best one in our area that shows pretty close to the actual wind and the gusts.
And this is why I'm so glad you brought that up because it's such an important thing. One, this is a coarser model, so it's not going to catch some of the micro scale influences, but all of these models are very similar. And I'll give you an idea because this is here. I know what's going on. These bottom numbers are the gusts. Do not trust them for any model because they're not able to handle the momentum transfer at night. When at night everything simmers down, you don't have all those bubbles. So those winds may be higher aloft at 100 or 200 feet, but they're not mixing down to the ground. But the models can't tell that. So what it does is it picks up on these winds that may be only a few hundred feet above the ground or 1,000 feet above the ground and tries to represent it. And so in the heat of the day, maybe in 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. time frame, that is a little bit more representative because you get what we call convective overturning. As those bubbles, convection, are rising, it's overturning the atmosphere and it's mixing some of the higher winds down as the bubble goes up. And it brings those higher winds to the surface and you get that variability. So looking at the 2 p.m., 5 p.m., even 8 p.m. time frame in the peak heating cycle, these gusts can be trusted far more than in the morning because these are still above you, but they're not at the ground unless there's a big front or something that then means the winds are going to be strong anyway. And you'll see that in the general mean wind. But this all shows where the winds are coming from the southwest to the northeast, mean wind of 6 with a gust to 17. That's not happening at 5 a.m., not unless there's some reason like thunderstorms or a change of air mass with the frontal system. And so the icon does represent what you were just saying, and that I don't think here, there's no way we're going to have 7-mile-an-hour wind at 5 a.m., but it's doing a better job than maybe the HRRR saying there's 11 or 17-mile-an-hour gust potential. The GFS, which is actually even the coarser of all the models, is actually the most representative, saying no, there's not going to be any type of variability in the wind and no gusts. But as you heat during the day, those gusting potentials are more likely to be true. But the rule of 40 that I was telling you is I'm looking for the preponderance of evidence. And so if I wanted to fly tomorrow, 4, 4, 1, 3, 4, 5. They're all basically from the southwest. So the models are all pretty much consistent with the meteorological situation that's at hand. And they're all very, very consistent with the mean wind speed. So what I do is I go, okay, preponderance of evidence here. Let's just count them up. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, and 5, 21, way below my threshold of 40. But let's just say I wanted to try this at 5 p.m. First of all, I'm not going to be doing it because look at these gusts. I'm not likely to get a good flight in. I'd probably have to wait just until evening for the atmosphere to simmer down. And even then, this model is saying that's an outlier. There's no preponderance of evidence with respect to this, but it's picking up on something. And what I surmise after we were looking at the remember the representation of the convection, the thunderstorms that may be moving into my neck of the woods tomorrow evening, it's picking up on an outflow boundary from that. The other models didn't catch it, but it is, and it should because it's the densest of all the models. And so that would be in the back of my mind going, yeah, I don't think so. But even if there weren't gusts, what I would have to do is do my math and go, okay, 4, 7, 12, 16, 19, and then 11, 29, 30. It's still below 40. So that's just a little game I play. And usually if it's
so basically what you're saying is if it's 40 or more, don't fly.
I usually do because that is telling me that either one model is so severely aberrant that it might be picking up on something that's going to bite me. And if I make like if I coordinate with someone for an evening flight, um, that might be the thing that ruins everyone's day at the last minute. But if all the models are showing enough that they total 40, most likely, because of the preponderance of evidence is saying it's very likely, there's no way I'm flying. You know, you might have one model that only says 4, but the other ones say 15, 20, 18, 15, and 12. I'm not going to do it. So I'm looking for these preponderance of evidences, and at least for me, 40 often ends up being a really good, reliable breakpoint number. It's not guaranteed. It's a little game I have, and everyone is going to have a different threshold that they find is optimal for them. But I'm looking for the preponderance of that data set and also what model is saying what and why. Normally, if this was a very coarse model, like the GFS or even the European at 22 kilometers and 9 kilometers, you're looking at something that's 6 and almost 12-mile grid spacing. If I saw that, I would be very suspicious. But this is the one that has the tightest grid point spacing. So it's the one that has like a really, really thin, I should say a very, very fine net. So those little fish, which might be an isolated thunderstorm with a nasty outflow boundary, it can pick up because that fish can't get through the net, whereas these ones that have the bigger grid spacing may miss it altogether. That is of concern. And then when we were looking earlier about what the projected weather might be, there was a reason for that. So you just kind of put all of this together, just like a doctor would, and weigh the preponderance of the evidence and what is the threat, and then you get to the risk reward, and then you make the decision. So that's basically what the essence of all this is about. And there's so much more substance in it, but if anyone even takes a small fraction of this, they're going to be much, much better and safer when it comes to being weather aware.
So as far as apps for paramotor pilots, what apps are good apps to use other than these right here that you have given us to look at to be even more in depth other than Windy and Ryan Carlton?
Oh,
Is there any other
well,
apps that you would use on your phone when you're out at the
I,
field?
honestly, I have not found any that provides me with any additional information that these two don't. There's a plethora of them out there, but I've never found any that are better.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean there aren't. I just haven't been introduced to them yet.
Have you heard of, have you gone to ppg.report?
I'll have to look into it. PPG
Report.
dot report. No, I'll have to. Can you call it up? You can educate me. I'm always
Yeah,
interested
sure.
in the
Yeah, I'll
latest
pull
and
it up.
greatest.
Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick. So this is one that we use also as PPG report. You just type in PPG dot report. It's not
Mm.
ppg.report.com. It's just
Uh-huh.
PPG dot report.
Okay.
And then you can put in your location. And this is good too, because you can put it in at your on your phone, right? So it's not an app, it's just part of it. And you can see here too, it not only tells the temperature, et cetera, but it also shows your wind shear that you were talking about also, or some sort of shearing effect
Mm-hmm.
and what altitude. So ppg.report is a good one that we use.
Yeah, I like that.
Has a lot of good information on it.
And it looks like, because some of the height intervals are very similar to Ryan Carlton's. I bet you that it's taken
Exactly.
from the same source.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's going to be NOAA source. Maybe probably the HRRR model, or the rapid refresh model. Those really fine grid, high resolution models. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that a lot.
It shows right here. I mean, you can go over it and actually it tells you like a slight chance of thunderstorms. You
Mhm.
can go over it and show um and see all the different things. I like it because it's color coordinated.
Yeah,
Actually has the directions. There's an arrow where Ryan Carlton does not show.
right.
So this looks like Ryan Carlton on steroids with a lot more information.
Yeah, I really like that. So how are they showing gusts? Of course, you're at the time of day where there would be very many gusts, but if you went to the heat of the day, how would they show gustiness?
I don't see the gust on here. So I
It
just
just
went,
you mean wind.
yeah, this is just wind, your shears and stuff like that. Obviously, you would have to do something like windy, red, or something
Right.
like that to
Hmm.
see the wind gusts. But like you said too, which was really interesting, is that, in the very morning up until about 5 p.m., don't trust the gusts on the windy, which is really neat because
Only in the morning. I would say only for the first few hours before
first few
the
hours, okay.
sun. Yeah, once you get to mid-morning, and especially late morning on, you're getting all that convective overturning of the atmosphere with the bubbles due to the heating of the sun on the earth. Then you're getting the momentum transfer and pushing those higher winds down to the surface as those bubbles go up to replace the vacuum of the bubble from the surface. So that's when you're going to get all those gusts. But most of the time, unless you've got some other cause like a thunderstorm or a frontal boundary or passage, you're not going to see the gustiness until you get the heating of the day to create that. And then that usually is delayed until the time you wouldn't want to be flying anyway, which should be after 9 or 10 o'clock.
Very interesting. Yeah, I've noticed that 9 times out of 10, when it says that there's gusts in the morning, there's not any gusts. And
Yeah.
that's basically what you said, is that they are looking at the gusts from about 1,000 feet up in the air, you said, something like that.
Well, or just the mean wind. There's usually not a lot of gustiness or sharp gustiness aloft. The higher you go, the more laminar the winds are.
Right.
It's what's happening is that thermal change near the ground is causing the variability of the winds, because those winds are moving down on the ground and then the bubbles pushing it back up, and it's mixing all that. And you're getting all this erraticness, but the higher winds are still mixing down. So if you've got a 15-mile-an-hour wind at 400 feet, by mid-morning, some of those 15-mile-an-hour winds are getting overturned down to the ground with the bubbling going up. And just like your pot of water, it's getting chaotic, and all that wind is getting stirred down into the lower atmosphere. And then you're picking up the variability in wind speed and direction.
Very interesting how you just said boiling water. I never thought of it until just now. You're absolutely right. That boiling water, when you first turn on that heat, you get a bubble here and a bubble there. That's just like the sun coming up, and you get a little bit of a thermal, a little bit of a thermal until midday. That's very interesting. So that's a good visual.
Yeah. Yeah. And When I'm with students, I can get down literally on my knees with the floor and show how the bubble, as it rises, what happens at ground level with respect to the entrainment of air under that bubble. Because let's just say you have a east wind at 3 miles an hour and a bubble goes up to the west of that. As the bubble goes up, it pulls air into it. So that east wind is actually increased going into it because it's pulling it in. But on the other side, it's subtracted. It's a vector addition and subtraction. So if you got a 3 mile an hour east wind coming into a bubble that's going up, it then may go to 6 miles an hour from the east there, but it actually goes to 0 miles an hour on the other side of the bubble because all of a sudden it's counteracting and counterbalancing the mean wind from the east. So right there, you go from 6 to 0. Now start changing it from, well, what if you're north of the bubble? Actually, then you start to change the direction because it's sucking into the bubble as well as the speed. And that's what happens as, that little bubble goes up as you heated the water, and then they get bigger and bigger and more volatile. And that's why by mid-morning, no one wants to do kiting because the winds are just changing in speed and direction. It's all because of those bubbles getting bigger and bigger and going off and changing the mean direction of the wind.
And that's why the more wind socks you have or ways of looking at the wind at your field is good. What do you use as far as wind socks? You use a bunch of streamers, or what do you use to
I love streamers because they're very, very sensitive to the wind. And you can get a really good idea of wind direction and speed much more readily than, windsock or anything else. The streamers are or if you've got someone that just has a little, I don't know, I've seen people on a morning where it's calm and they're smokers and they'll just see where it goes. And that's always a good thing too.
Pretty awesome. Well, we sure covered a lot of stuff, and
We did. I'm
two
amazed.
2.5 hours went by so quick.
Well, you're a great host. You asked great questions. Your audience was amazing too, and I'm honored to be here, and I'm thrilled to have been able to at least gone through all of this stuff because it's just a good icebreaker to the depth that is below it that people can research for themselves. But love talking about weather, and you've been great moderating it.
Yeah, you know your stuff, that's for sure. Gosh,
Absolutely.
I know I kept going in and out on the screen because, got my little kitty cat down here and she's like,
I see.
Mom,
Yeah.
it's almost my bedtime, Mom. Let's go.
Well, like I
this is
said,
really
you are
good.
more than welcome to join us every Monday. I know
Yes,
you'll be on a
thank you.
cruise next week.
Yeah.
Other than
Yes.
that, you're in the chat. Stay in the
Yes, thank
in
you.
the guest chat. Stay there. Every Monday, we'll post the information about what we're doing, who we're going to be hosting with. You would be a very valuable person on our panel as far as being able to understand or talk about the weather if something comes up, where there's a weather, incident or weather something. We can go, hey, well, let's talk with Dave real quick, and Dave will go, oh, well, this is what's going on.
Okay, I'd be honored
Yeah.
to. Thank you very much for the invite. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have to give a quick shout out to James Sutherland because he's the one that hooked me up with you, Dave, when I was he's the one that told me about you. When I was chatting with him about something, about a guest or whatever, he goes, oh yeah, my buddy Dave Wert, you need to get him on. Da, da, da. And so there you go.
Yeah,
So
great guy.
shout out to James. Thank you
Yes.
so much, James. Yeah.
Thank you, James. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
I know,
Well, we're
right?
all good folk, all a family that can share good information with one another. We all benefit from it.
Absolutely. So tell us
appreciate
about
it.
your school real quick, how to get up with you, where you're located, all that fun stuff.
Well, we're in southwestern Virginia, and I will train folks, but it's more just the tandem flights that I offer, the experience and the introductory flight. But I'm in Christiansburg. I fly out of Dublin, which is exit 98 on Interstate 81. And that airport's an awesome airport. So anytime anyone wants to come by and say hi, I'd love to fly with them. And actually, we've got a couple of other paramotor pilots in the area too that fly. So there's actually a lot of paramotor activity here between the powered parachutes, which there's one, and then many of the paramotors too. Not all of which have been trained locally, and some have, I don't think any have self-taught, but a lot of experience in this area.
And what's the name of your paramotor URL?
Cloudhuggerppg.com.
Excellent. I do have all that information down below. So if you are watching this later on, or if you're listening to this, all the information should be in the show description. So check that out. Go over and say hi to Dave. Check us out over at Run to the Sky. We're over in Arkansas. Say hi to Linda Anderson and everybody else that is on there.
Yes.
We really had a fun time, Dave. So thank you so much.
So
Definitely
much.
appreciate
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Linda, before we go?
I just want to say thank you to all my listeners and my chatters. How many we still got people in the chat still listening. I appreciate you hanging with us tonight. A lot of good information. I hope you all enjoyed it because I sure did. You know, there's a lot. You just never realize, you know, what's all involved in the weather. And I want to get into more stuff next time that you come on here, like the turbulence part of it. What, you know, what do you call it? Dig down deep, you know, about these things about turbulence and what caused it, and go into that maybe on the next, you know, when you come back, you know, from your vacation and stuff.
And
yeah,
bumps.
kind of
What's
talk
causing
about
the
that.
bumps? Are bumps dangerous? And when are bumps not dangerous? And when are
Yeah.
they dangerous? All that stuff.
We're gonna pick your brain.
Yeah, we
Okay,
are.
now Dave. God knows it.
I'll do my
Yeah.
best for all of you, but thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Like I said, thank you so much for your time and everything tonight. We really appreciate you. And like I said, I appreciate all my chatters and my listeners and everything for you guys hanging with us on Monday nights, because we have a blast and I'm glad you enjoy it. So much love, and please be safe when you're flying, you know, be safe out there.
We still have 14 people after 2.5 hours, which is
Wow.
pretty good. So, you
That's
know.
awesome. Thank you guys for hanging with us tonight.
Well, it's
Appreciate
been
it.
very good, very interesting. And we definitely need to know more about weather when it comes to paramotoring and, you know, flying our little soft wings up there. We definitely need to be very careful. Down below
Yes.
also we have a link to it's a GoFundMe, but it's not through GoFundMe. It's actually through our nonprofit for Anthony Vella. We got the link down below. You know that GoFundMe's and those other ones out there, they take a lot of money out for fees. Because it's going through our nonprofit, we're able to mitigate all those fees. So check out that link down below. If you know about Anthony Vella, he had a wing collapse and some injuries. I'm sure that you've probably already seen the video. Anyways, prayers and to Anthony and his family out there for sure. We're thinking about you and praying for you, brother.
Yes. Every
You know,
day.
Anthony was like on our first I think the fifth show that we did. So
I think so. Yeah.
Many years ago, he was on our show.
Yeah.
Back
And
when it first started.
he was on Robert's show a lot. He'd come on there. Him and Robert they're really close friends. And yes, and we've been praying for him too. He's on the prayer list at Robert's church, and definitely, Anthony, we love you. And we just want you to get better.
Absolutely. Get out here and go fly some more. You know, I was listening to him on his podcast before I ever began to fly or start our podcast. And he's kind of the reason why I started a podcast, because, you know, he did such a good job and I was really into it. And I learned so much on his podcast. And David Wolf, you know, great podcast. Your son, great podcast. Cloud-based mayhem for paragliders, so that's a really good podcast too, as far as weather and understanding some things when it comes to paragliding. A lot of good podcasts out there, and really sad that they're starting to dwindle a little bit, but we got a couple more that popped up, like tomorrow, you know, Paramotor Hangouts, you know, that's pretty good. And Scuba Steve with his vaping podcast, he starts talking about paramotors because he's a paramotor pilot. So it
Yeah.
gets out there a little bit.
Yeah. Well, once I get my YouTube channel all squared away, I have a lot of people out there that can help me, kind of get it started or whatever. Because I know there's a lot to it. But like I said, I follow so many podcasts all day long, on the TV, and then doing this. Now I'm starting to get a little more braver. I want to kind of open up my horizons, as saying goes,
Yeah.
And so I decided
You want to spread your wings? Uh-huh.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So down the road, I want to build up my subscribers first. And I was picking
Absolutely.
Robert's brain today about all this. So I know he'll help me with it. So
That
you'll
sounds
see.
good.
Maybe
Dave,
Thursdays can be I don't know.
I hope so. Thursdays are open because Robert's not doing his show. So hopefully
Yeah, it
somebody
shows.
will fill that.
Yeah, I mean, it shows I have 22 subscribers sitting there. So from when I started it, kind of started it, and yeah, and I
And you
just
don't even have any videos on it yet.
kind of I know. Well, maybe Bonnie, yeah, when I do my flying thing, but Bonnie's gonna record everything, so then you guys or whatever, you can help me get all
Dave,
learn
you
how
have a YouTube channel?
to put, huh?
Does Dave have a YouTube channel? Dave, you got a YouTube channel?
I
Or just Facebook?
do. No, I've got a YouTube channel. I pretty much have just kept it private unless,
Oh,
someone
okay.
is like, I want to see you fly, which is fine. I just haven't really thought about it. I mean, I'd have to think about its format and I don't think there's anything on there that would be provocative. So I,
Well, I
I
was
could
just
share it.
asking. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, there's certainly nothing formal. Like I said, I'm not the most social media adept individual, so probably a little slow on the draw.
I know, you and me both. I mean, I'm still, I still got brave enough to go and check and see our YouTube channel. It was still there and everything. We were just kind of messing with that today. And so yeah, I just baby steps,
Mhm,
baby
mhm,
steps to learn
mhm.
all this technology and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Once you
So
got your YouTube channel and you know what that is, copy that link, send it to me, and I'll put it on your
Ah,
page. That way,
okay.
people know that. And Dave, once you know yours and you want to share it, if you want to, just let me know, and I'll put it in the show notes below also.
Okay, thank you
oh,
so much.
Absolutely.
okay,
So
I'll get with them.
how about we go to a private chat real quick and
Okay,
end this live stream
do
because
that.
I know
Okay,
uh, everybody's butt's probably really tired. Oops.
yeah, okay,
Oops. I think I turned off my video on accident. And
okay.
we'll say goodbye to everybody out there. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
listening to the show.
everybody.
Today
Much love.
we talked with David Wert, meteorologist. He's now a para meteorologist, which is really awesome. He does have his own flight school, and all the information is down below. Thank you very much, David, for everything that you've done. My name is Sean
Thank
Symons,
you.
PPG Grandpa, and we'll catch you next week right here. Be here or be square at
Bye. Thank y'all.
clearproptv.com. All right. That was really fun. I really did enjoy that a lot. I had a really good time. Very, very awesome. Where is my live stream? There it is. Let's go and stop that. Peace.